Hello everybody. Today I'm going to look at toys that have caused death or serious injury to the kids that played with them. Yep, it's another light-hearted, fun-filled Shrouded hand video. I can't imagine the heartbreak of losing a child, but imagine if it turned out you had inadvertently caused their death when you bought them some innocent looking toy. Most toys probably have some sort of deadly potential, and that's why a lot of them come with choking hazard warning signs. But sometimes a manufacturing fault or a safety oversight can make these toys far more deadly than you might have expected. The Hang 10 mini hammock was sold as a fun summertime activity. It was a regular net hammock, but much shorter in size, so only suitable for small children. Parents could hang these hammocks in between two trees and their kids could while away their summer outdoors playing in the suspended net. The problems mostly came when the children were left unsupervised. The mini hammock had one major design flaw. Most children's hammocks have spreader bars at either ends that hold the net open. The Hang 10 didn't have this. When suspended, the net would just hang down like a rope. As you can probably imagine, it was extremely easy for a small child to get the net wrapped around their neck whilst trying to enter or exit the hammock. Once around their tiny throats, the tension of the net between the two trees could cause the noose to quickly tighten, suffocating the child before they had time to free themselves. The product was sold in the early 70s and it was only recalled in 1996. Over the product's lifetime, at least 12 children died from being strangled in its nets. Similar deaths occurred from the Lil Napper infant swing. It probably doesn't really count as a toy, but it's still worth mentioning here as an example of a dangerous product made for children. The problem with the Lil Napper swing was the height of the legs and the fact that it was quite easy for a baby or toddler to loosen the shoulder straps that held them into the seat. Once free of the straps, they could easily tip the chair forward and fall out. On a number of occasions, the child managed to get the straps wrapped around their throats before slipping out of the chair, essentially turning the whole structure into a miniature gallows. 4 children have died and there's been a number of near strangulations that have been caused by use of the Lil Napper chair. Some of the most grisly cases I've heard of come from the rise of neodymium magnet toys. You've probably seen these marketed under various names like buckyballs or geomags. They're also used in a lot of toys that require clasps like toy jewellery and purses. They're small but extremely powerful magnets that can attract to each other from a fair distance away due to their strong magnetic field. The danger comes when a child swallows these magnets. Their small size and often bright colours can make them pretty tempting for a curious toddler. I'll give a typical scenario, one that sent many children to the hospital. A small child mistakes a buckyball for some candy, swallows it whole and it starts to pass through his body. It sits in the stomach for a while and then enters the small intestine. A little while later, the same kid decides he wants to eat some more buckyballs. Maybe he swallows a couple more and they once again enter his stomach. The various magnets then start to attract towards each other inside his body, the one in the small intestine being pulled towards the ones in the stomach in a straight line with such force that it punches a hole right through his organs. This can cause massive internal bleeding, blockages, twisted intestines and infections. This happened to 19-month-old Anna Kachafin. She was rushed to hospital, bleeding from her nose and mouth. It was discovered that she'd swallowed 7 neodymium magnets and they'd perforated her bowel. This caused a major infection which ultimately killed the child. The toys are now banned in several countries, or they're sold as executive stress relievers designed specifically for adults, but still there's hundreds of similar injuries occurring each year. In the winter of 1999, Burger King started a Pokemon-themed promotion in the United States. With certain kids' meals, they would give out one of 57 different Pokemon toys hidden within a Pokeball-shaped container. The toys were fairly harmless, but the container itself was another matter. It came apart into two halves, there were no air holes in its sides, and it was the perfect size to fit over a small child's nose and mouth. That December, a 13-month-old girl was found dead in her playpen, one half of a Burger King Pokeball stuck to her face. The shape of the ball had made a perfect airtight seal around the nose and mouth. The more the child attempted to breathe, the tighter it stuck. Although the death was widely publicised, Burger King refused to take the product off the market. Even though the child was found suffocated with the Pokeball stuck to her face, they said it was unclear whether the product really had been the cause of death, and waited for confirmation from the Consumer Product Safety Commission. 12 days later, an 18-month-old girl almost died in exactly the same way. One half of a Pokeball got stuck over her mouth and nose. Luckily, her father was nearby and was able to remove it before any serious injury occurred. After this incident, Burger King finally agreed to do a product recall. The problem was that by this time about 25 million of the Pokemon toys had been sold, and it was near impossible to recall all of them. In January the following year, a 4-month-old boy was found dead in his crib, a Pokeball affixed to his face. In not wanting to dent their profit margin, Burger King were happy to risk letting another child die, and that's exactly what happened. It will be good to remember this incident next time Burger King try and do one of their woke advertising campaigns. From killer toys to ones that cause serious injury. As far as I know, none of the following toys have actually killed anyone, but given how dangerous they were, it's probably down to sheer luck than anything else. In 2007, there was a huge product recall for a toy called Aqua Dots. These plastic craft beads, also marketed as bindies or pixos, were manufactured cheaply in China, and it was discovered that the plastic used contained the chemical tetramethylene glycol. This chemical, when ingested by humans, metabolized into gamma-hydroxybutyric acid, also known as GHB. GHB is commonly known as the date rape drug, a flavourless compound that can cause people to fall into a narcoleptic state. Large doses can cause permanent brain damage and even death. A number of children had been rushed to hospital. 2 of them had fallen into non-responsive comas. They all showed signs of GHB overdose, and they were found to have large quantities of aquadots in their stomachs. Fortunately, there were no long-term side effects for these children. They eventually recovered. The product recall was mostly successful, and the chemical used in the toy's production was changed to a non-toxic compound. There was a brief panic afterwards, as it was believed that a black market could be created, with people using the unrecalled beads as a recreational drug, but it's not known if there are any actual cases of this happening. The Cabbage Patch dolls were some of the most popular kids' toys in the 80s and 90s, and in 1996 they decided to extend their range by releasing the Snack Time Kid. This doll came with a selection of plastic food like French fries and carrot sticks. Children could feed these snacks to the doll, who would gobble them down with a realistic chewing motion. Behind these moving lips, there was a pair of metal rollers that would grab the food and draw it down into the body of the doll. This, however, had 2 huge design flaws. 1, there was no off switch to the doll. It could only be deactivated by removing the backpack. And 2, the mouth was just about wide enough for a child to insert a finger or a lock of their hair. The toy was a huge hit over Christmas, but reports soon began to flood in of the doll chewing up kids' fingers or tearing the hair out at the roots. These cute dolls had become all-devouring monsters, filling their bellies with the hair and digits of little children. The following year, after a wave of complaints, Mattel decided to remove the doll from sale and offered a refund to anyone who bought it. There's plenty more dangerous products out there. Each year a top 10 list of the most dangerous products on the market is made to warn parents about potential injuries. Apparently Nerf guns and trampolines are responsible for the majority of injuries these days. But nothing really beats the 1940s and 50s for manufacturing stuff that kids really shouldn't be playing with. There's the ankle-breaking moon boots. These were things that you strapped onto your feet that were so easy to fall over in. It's amazing that anyone bought them for their child in the first place. There's the Gilbert's Atomic Energy Lab. This actually contains samples of radioactive uranium ore. But the most dangerous thing I've seen is the Austin Magic Pistol. This was a futuristic looking metal gun that fired a ball using calcium carbide as a propellant. Calcium carbide crystals would be inserted into the back of the gun, and then when water was applied to the crystals, an explosive chemical reaction would occur, producing a huge flame and shooting the ball at high speeds from the barrel of the gun. In many states today, this gun would be considered a firearm and you'd need a license to carry it, but back in the 1940s it was considered safe enough to give to children. It just goes to show how things have changed over the years. These days, toys have so many warnings and safety features that although tragedies do still happen, in a lot of cases it's because a child's left unattended playing with something not designed for their age range. I grew up in the 80s and 90s. I was trying to think of examples of dangerous toys that I had, but I couldn't really think of any. I'm sure there was plenty around. Swing ball probably caused a few strangulations and knocked out teeth over the years. In the schoolyards we'd have important discussions about which WWF wrestling figure hurt the most if their spring action smacked you across the fingers. I remember once being at a classmate's birthday party at the beautiful Connors Quay Community Centre. We were playing pin the tail on a donkey, and when it was my turn they blindfolded me, but they didn't put it on properly so I could still clearly see out of the bottom. Needless to say, I easily won that game of pin the tail on a donkey, and my prize was a wing-sang robot dinosaur ray gun. I don't know if you remember these, they were amazing. Not only was it a robot dinosaur gun, but when you pulled the trigger, sparks would shoot out from its mouth and the propeller on the front would spin around at great speed. There was a girl at the party who quite correctly accused me of cheating at the game, so as revenge I put the propeller of the ray gun into her long blonde hair and pulled the trigger a few times. The resulting entanglement was so bad that they had to cut off some of her hair to get her free. She was in floods of tears and the gun was confiscated. I think there were probably about 5 minutes between me winning the ray gun and me causing an injury with it. I can't remember who that girl was, but if she's watching, I'm really sorry, and you were quite right, I had cheated all along. Anyway, I covered some really tragic cases at the beginning of the video, and I don't want to seem like I'm making a joke out of them. I just wanted to put a slightly more light-hearted story at the end of the video so that the whole thing isn't completely depressing. Health and safety rules can be quite overbearing these days, but some of these stories shed a bit of light on why a lot of these safety measures are there in the first place. Thank you for watching the video. If you enjoyed this one, I made one a couple of years ago about subliminal messages hidden in kids' toys. It should be on the screen now, so if you want to check it out, you can give that a click. I'm also going to put a link here to a channel called Mr. Horror. He's been giving me a lot of support on Instagram, and I really like his videos, so I'll put a link, go check out his channel and show him some love, give him a subscribe. Until next time, goodbye.